here together with Tim Waters from the Digital Clarity Group at the E2O Summit in Zürich. Tim, you have been our keynote of today on our key theme, which is mainly around digital or the importance of the digital customer experience. And you were giving a keynote this morning, what's behind the importance. So could you please summarize your keynote?
Yeah, sure. So first of all, thanks for the invitation. I think to give you the briefest possible summary, I want to establish the inevitability of paying attention to customer experience management. We call it the CEM imperative, because it's not, in our view, something that companies can maybe adopt or not, or put off for 6 months or a year and do it later when the budget line is better. But it's the power relationships between buyers and sellers, between consumers and brands has changed so fundamentally that we think it is imperative that companies begin to address this now. So the first thing that we want to do is establish that this is the case. Right? We need to prove that this is the case. And so you can review the ways in which what you might call the forces of digital disruption, such as social, mobile, cloud, video, roll all that up into what we call ubiquitous computing, or ubiquity, so that now you're virtually always connected, which means through various multiple devices, which means you have ubiquitous access to information, alternatives, insights, reviews, and so forth. Right? You're always on, always online, and always socially informed. That kind of cycle of ubiquitous content consumption has grossly empowered consumers, and granted them a kind of voice and choice that they fundamentally never had before. And you can look at a few basic statistics around that. So, for example, in a survey of North American consumers, 1% said that they were fully satisfied with the experiences that they were currently offered, and 90%, 89%, said that they not only would, but have already in the past switched to a competitor because of a poor customer experience on a site or in a face-to-face encounter. That kind of demanding quality of consumers today, that capriciousness, that willingness to immediately go and look for a superior experience, for better fulfillment, for better support for my task orientations, that is what's really driving and legitimating this imperative for customer experience management.
But are the companies already ready for this? Are they aware of the importance of providing customer experience?
Yeah. I think the answers to those two questions are no. Yes and no. They are aware of it in most cases. Are they ready for it? No. And there are probably many reasons why they are not. One, because budgets are in terrible condition right now. The economy's in terrible condition. It's one of the great ironies, frankly, of economic history that basically a year after the introduction of the iPhone, that is, so in the summer of 2008, as the iPhone and the mobile shift is really beginning to have clear social and economic impacts, then Lehman Brothers goes bankrupt and the world economy goes into the toilet. Right? And suddenly companies are paralyzed and can't do anything. Right at the moment in which they should have been effecting fundamental transformations, and not inexpensive transformations, they're least prepared to be able to do it. Right? Mm-hmm. That's ironic. Nevertheless, we think that there has to be some way to negotiate this, because it is, after all, an imperative. That a consumer who's looking at the quality of your customer experiences that you offer and looking at competitors that are superior, they don't know that yours are not as good because you have some budget problems, or because you haven't reorganized yet, or because the CEO won't give buy-in. All they know is that your experiences are not as high quality, and they will abandon you. Mm-hmm. So there has to be some way forward. And our advice is to take it one step at a time. One, because that's what you can afford to do. Secondly, because that's the way in which you create some validated learning and actually build upon insights rather than just wildly trying different kinds of things. And that's finally how you just build up momentum and get more and more buy-in through the organization in order to eventually create something like full-fledged customer experience management.
But the economic constraints you were mentioning, isn't this also a chance for the digital customer experience, because as far as I understood the concept of digital customer experience, it's not just about having a nice brand experience, it's also about having a nice interaction experience on the website and driving the customer or leading the customer to some point of action and to some point of conversion. So this, with this economic constraints, maybe this is also more objective oriented at this point.
Yeah, I think that's right, and that's important to stress, because when we go and look for examples of superior customer experiences, both, when companies look for, what is the marketplace doing, or when we as analysts try to find good examples of companies that are doing it right, you often end up looking at, say, an app, right? It's a really cool app. It does something different that nobody else has ever done before, and it's interesting. But in the final instance, it's just an app. It's part of a superior experience, and so you really have to look at the overall customer journey, from their first interest, which you're not even aware of, right? They've begun researching you, but you don't even know it. So you have to be out there in those channels or in those touch points where they begin gathering information. You have to make yourself available even when you're not aware of the fact that somebody has engaged with you, right through all of the stages of consideration, research, and so forth, until they reach the point where they want to convert and eventually hopefully become an enthusiastic supporter. That entire process is how you can encourage more conversions ultimately. It's not about the buying funnel itself, it's about this much larger kind of holistic environment in which people are coming into a buying consideration and completing that entire journey.
Other analysts in the market, they are talking when they talk about digital customer experience, they talk about the next generation of content management. Is this right?
Maybe. We certainly do think that, one, if you look at the technologies that are necessary or likely to be necessary, depending upon your context, to support customer experience management, there's a very large and diverse and growing set of software technologies, and no one vendor comes close yet to encompassing all of those or offering all of those in an integrated package. And then it would be another question whether you would want to buy into such an integrated package. Nevertheless, we do think that content management or classical web content management technologies are at the core of that software ecosystem for some very good reasons, because it's really about content assets and creating them, bundling them, managing them, presenting them in various ways. Nevertheless, the way in which that set of functionalities, let's say, needs to evolve in order to support customer experience management means that it should become much more thoroughly integrated into and even holistically undifferentiated from other parts of the software ecosystem. So I think I wouldn't call it next generation content management. I would encourage us to stop calling it content management and maybe something like experience management or some alternative, but leave behind the notion of content as such, which is still anchored in that legacy of presenting text and photos on a website.
Well, while the E2O Summit is still going on, do you have already a takeaway that you have drawn from the conference this morning?
Yeah, maybe a little bit. I mean, one, I'm just encouraged to see the breadth of companies that are here, not merely attending, right? Because that would, you'd expect there to be some inkling of a notion that it's something that should be paid attention to, but you've got a very nice set of companies that are presenting on what they're actually doing, the progress that they've made so far. And that's really encouraging to see, because we do see very often this kind of deer in the headlights syndrome that we brushed up against earlier, where companies are aware of the need for change but can't do it, or don't think they can do it, or don't want to do it, or something. So it's really nice to see a large number of companies that have begun taking those early steps. And maybe it's just about rationalizing their content management platform, but that's a very important step in order to create the foundation on which you're going to be able to build these other engagement scenarios. Maybe it's on the intranet side, the intranet track, and organizing and empowering employees to provide superior customer engagement. So I think that's the key takeaway, is just it's good to see that there's really some movement in the market.
Great. Thank you.
Great.